Welcome to the Executive Edge interview series. I'm Nora Paxton, executive coach and leadership advisor. And these series are designed to help leaders think bigger, lead more intentionally, and create lasting impact in their organization and communities. Today's conversation is about something every leader needs, but not every leader always knows about how to build meaningful connection. Today, we're going to look at connection through a different lens. Not only a human connection, but connection between capital, technology, real estate, ownership, data, and opportunity. My guest today is Mandy McGill. Mandy is a tokenization consultant and educator with 15 years of entrepreneurial experience in real estate, commercial real estate. She is the founder of Decentralize Everything and the host of the Digital Building podcast. Her work sits at the intersection of commercial real estate, blockchain, AI, and tokenization. She helps real estate owners, sponsors, platforms, and family offices understand what tokenization actually means and how to move real asset tokenization from concept to close. Mandy, welcome to Executive Edge. I'm so glad to have you here.
Nora, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for the conversation.
Thank you, Mandy. So before we get into tokenization, AI, and the future of real estate, I would love to start with your mission. You operate at the intersection of commercial real estate, AI, and tokenization. So what is the mission behind your work, and why does that matter to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been thinking about this question a lot through the lens of what you do as an executive coach, and maybe a little bit different than, what I would answer to someone else. But as an executive coach, just thinking through your lens, I really think my mission is to learn. And I am so blown away by what these tools can do and what the technology does, and especially AI, and how it just keeps on improving and getting better and better in such a short period of time. And I am fascinated by it. And as someone who absolutely loves language and has always been, I mean, I've been reading books since I was 2 years old. So I love this tool so much because I can just ask it a question and it answers, and it gives me so much information that's amazing. And I can keep asking it questions and keep having a conversation with it. And like, it's actually bringing me back so much great information that I love it. So I think the mission really for me is to learn the tools and know them deeply and know how they work, and then take that understanding and then spread it out to the world. And my world and my industry happens to be commercial real estate. I fell into it 15 years ago, and I know it really well. And I know who the players are and how it all works. And so that I think really my mission is very intrinsic at this point.
Yeah.
Like it used to be like, 10 years ago, I would have said it's all about others, which, it still is. I want people to feel less fear, and I want them to feel informed. And, that's important to me. But like, I think the mission is even more intrinsic at this point, and that's to really know deeply these tools.
Yeah, so I'm curious about that. If we go back to the real estate industry, what are you trying to help this industry see differently?
Mm. Wow, that's a really good question. So the industry is really well known for not adopting technology,
Mm.
right? And there are many reasons for that. Many of them, which are really, I empathize with the industry not wanting to. And part of it is because the technology has really always been a bolt-on. It's never been something that sort of exists within the industry and helps people. And often the technology is created by technologists and not the industry itself. And so, I can understand why they don't adopt it, right? But I think this time is going to be different because the AI can do so much more and can actually really do what humans can do, which is great. And so I think it's going to take 5 or 10 years. And my goal over the next 5 or 10 years is to have them come alongside me as I learn, and be open to learning something new, because there's going to be this collision that happens between the technology and legislation that really is going to change so much. So I really hope they'll see it differently over the next few years.
Yeah. You know what I appreciate about your work, Mandy, is that you're helping translate a complicated topic for real estate professionals.
Mhm, mhm,
Tokenization can sound abstract or futuristic, but your work really seems focused on making it practical
mhm,
and commercially useful. So that leads me to the second questions that I have for you. What has to be true before tokenization becomes commercially useful in real estate, not just
mhm,
technically possible?
yeah. A lot of things actually that aren't true yet. And so I think there's a lot of legislation that is starting to happen that will make it more accessible and will make developers able to really develop the tools that are needed in order for tokenization to be at mass at scale. I actually am working, in addition to me educating others, I am working on a tokenization project. We're doing a $7.5 million raise. And I will say that it has been really challenging, partially because not every single piece of what is needed is already built. So we're discovering what still needs to be built, what companies are doing right now, which ones we can plug into the process, which ones are actually useless, right? And figuring out exactly what is that path. And so all of that has to sort of come to fruition and be true. So I need to be able to have raised the 7.5 million and with my partners and come back and say, here's how we did it, and here's what was missing, and we were going to fill in those gaps along the way.
Okay, yeah. That distinction between what is really possible and what is useful is very important. Really, real estate leaders do not just need more technology. They need technology that solve real problems,
That's right.
create better access, improve
Mhm.
trust, or
Mhm.
maybe changes how value move through the system. So I also want to connect this to the idea behind your podcast, digital building, because that phrase suggests that the building of the future is not just a physical asset, right? It may also become a data asset and an
Yeah.
operating platform, and maybe even a more programmable financial asset.
Mm. Mm.
So, with that in mind, when you talk about digital building, what does that look like in the future?
Yeah, yeah. And there's two things mentioned here. So the name of my podcast is Digital Building, but what we're talking about here is actually a commercial building. So let's just envision that it's an office building for the sake of this conversation. And I like to think of the building as similar to a body, right? So our human bodies, we have a brain, and then we have all these different systems, right? We have a nervous system, we have, a endocrine system, we have all of these. And buildings are very similar. They have their MEP systems, they have their skin, the envelope, they have everything that exists inside of the building, right? We all know this. What they're missing at this point is a brain, really. They don't have a brain. And so the future building has a brain, and that's the AI. So um, the, now there are sensors attached to literally everything in the building. I mean, they're coming up with these as we speak, but and they're going to all look different and be a little bit different. But ultimately, these sensors will all be feeding into the brain and be giving it tons of different information. So now let's imagine for a second that like we're having a plumbing problem or on let's say there's a toilet problem on floor 5, right? So the in this scenario, the toilet will actually notify the AI brain that it's having a problem. Now, the AI brain already has a list of pre-vetted plumbers, and it can immediately send out a message to all of the plumbers who are available. Whoever can actually come fix it can notify the brain, I'll be there in 15 minutes and it will take me about 30 minutes to fix it. AI brain automatically loads, okay, it's going to be fixed. It notifies the property manager in 45 minutes, you need to come make sure this thing is fixed. Property manager goes and sees that it is, automatically checks it off, and then it cryptographically immediately pays the plumber for the job that they just did, right? And so, and then it fixes it in the ledger and it lets the ledger know, okay, we've made this payment. And then, so now imagine all of that information happening every single day on a daily basis, right? And like humans, we could never ever track all of that. But AI agents, they got it. It's completely fine. So now you take that example and you feed it into tokenization, which is this idea, like, so you think of it as like stocks, where stocks are constantly being updated day in and day out because of the information being fed to them. Well, that's all finance. But imagine that the building is also feeding the token the information in real time and the value of the building. I mean, a broken toilet isn't going to affect it, right? But, a fire would. Different things that could happen will definitely cause the asset to go up or down. People can argue as to whether or not they love this. Some people won't, right? I mean, and this is all theory. It's not, and a lot of this is just what my brain has come up with, right? I mean, I'm taking bits and pieces of things that I'm hearing that are reality, and I'm putting them together and going, okay, if this is true, then that means this also has to be true, right? And so, the picture I just painted for you is not out there anywhere, but it's theoretically possible with the technology. So, I'm certain it's some version of that world that we're headed into.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is such a powerful way to think about the future of real estate. It is not just about, I will look into it more deeper. It's not just about adopting new tools. It's about understanding how all these work together, ownership,
Mhm.
operation, capitals, data, and trust may all start to work really differently.
Yeah.
And so for the
Yeah.
people listening, for the leader listening, this can feel kind of exciting, but also overwhelming. So
Mhm.
I want to bring this back to the practical leadership level. Uh, what should they read, right?
Mhm.
Maybe ask or test or pay attention to. What would you tell someone who says, that sounds very interesting, but I don't know where
Mm.
to begin with or if
Yeah.
this sounds possible?
Yeah. That's a really great question. And I think the honest answer is that, first of all, if you're not using the large language models as a tool, you have to start there. You have to start there because it will help you do the research. So, on a really practical level, what I would say is it's really important to understand the legislation that's coming through because so the last legislation that was passed as a framework for our finance was in 1933. We are now in 2026 and they are about to pass the new framework moving forward. And whether or not it passes in full or in pieces over the next couple years, it is eventually going to pass because we need an updated framework. Can you imagine 1933? I mean, it's wild. So to make it practical, what I would say is understand that legislation, but the way you understand it is by going in, like maybe even the title itself, right? The Clarity Act. That's what it is. Use the LLM, type it in, and say, what is the Clarity Act? Then it will give you the information. Then for your next prompt, okay, this is what I do for a living. Tell me how the Clarity Act could potentially affect me, right? So I think on a practical level, it's like, what can you read? Well, there's a bazillion things I could recommend you read, right? But to bring it down to like really make it practical for you, I think it's in using the LLM itself, and yeah, I don't care which one you use. Pick your. They're all great in my opinion. So yeah, that's my practical advice, I think.
Yeah. Well, Mandy, This has been such a helpful conversation because you have taken a topic that really can feel technical and made it more grounded. I absolutely loved the human body analogy, and I think anybody can understand that. It's very powerful, but I can see as you were describing it how it could work actually potentially can work today. I mean, it's just the evolution of AI is is crazy. It's
Yeah.
incredible, so fast. And but most of it, it's just you're helping people understand that tokenization is not just about technology. It's about access, it's about trust, it's about capital, it's about ownership, it's about how real estate may evolve as an industry.
Mhm.
And I love that, right? So one thing I like to close with every executive edge conversation, it's my final question. If the audience were to remember only one thing from this conversation, Mandy, what is the one thing that you want them to understand about the future of real estate, AI, and tokenization?
Mhm. Don't be afraid. It's going to be a lot of change and it's going to be fast, but get on the roller coaster and ride it. Don't be afraid of it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in that we want it or not, we are on this road. So,
Yeah.
Mandy, thank you so much, Will, for joining me today. I really appreciate the clarity, the practicality, and the forward-looking perspective. I'm all about that you
Mhm.
brought during this conversation. And for everyone listening, I hope this conversation challenged you. Really you to think differently about real estate, about technology, about ownership, and really the future of value creation.
Mhm.
This has been the Executive Edge interview series, and I am Nora Paxton, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, Mandy.
Thanks for having me.